All right. Morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the New York City Transit and Bus Committee. Let's get started with our public safety announcements.
Your safety is of foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen to the following instructions. In the event of an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and 911 should be called. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell D down the hallway past the elevators. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. Thank you and have a safe day.
I'd like to open today's meeting by acknowledging that February is National Black History Month. This is the time for us to celebrate the immense contributions of Black Americans to our nation, state, city, and New York City Transit. I know I speak for all the fellow board members when I say the committee is dedicated to advancing racial equality and fair access to transit, particularly in the underserved communities and communities of color. Thank you to Greg, Demetrius, Frank, and Michael Gardner for the leadership team and the leadership teams at the MTA who continue to focus on ways that transit can improve equity overall in our system. This means closing the service gap that exists in transit deserts, expanding and extending our bus routes and subway stations to ensure we reach and serve all communities. This also means continuing to improve accessibility in our system, making more stations fully accessible to people with disabilities. In addition, transit continues to partner with the city on the Fair Fares program, and as you know, we just launched our Omni Fare capping pilot. This committee is here to support and help implement these improvements. So, as Black History Month draws to a close, let's continue to remain focused on leveling the playing field and bolstering equality in our system with better access to accessibility, affordable, and safe transit. We're ready to move on to our public speakers. Thank you.
Good morning. We have 15 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker today is Alita Dupree, followed by Christopher Greif.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you again, Chair Haida Mahalsis. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her. It's good to be back with you. Pick up where I left off. I'm going to talk about transit today. First of all, I'm really looking forward to the Omni fare cap. I'm going to use it, even though I have a reduced fare Metro card. I'm going to do it because I've done it before. It makes it easy. And I don't have to worry about another damaged MetroCard story. So we want to work on that and get our data together and make it permanent. And accessibility, as I've said before, is very important. I'm a person with disabilities, and sometimes I have those moments when my knee is a little tricky, hurts a little bit, and don't feel like climbing out of the deep subway station. So the escalators and elevators are very important. I would like to see us someday do 50 stations a year. So we're doing a lot now, but there's a lot more to do. And as far as both buses and trains go, I believe it's important to work on building a system that operates on renewable energy. I think we can have a system which has 100% electric bus fleet. There are other systems around the world that do this, and we can get the electricity to do so. And I think we can build a subway and a bus system and a railroad that runs on renewable energy. It's going to take a lot of work, but it is possible. I'm sitting in my home powered by solar, and the panels are somewhere else. So I look forward to this meeting and definitely the replay. And thank you for the opportunity to testify. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christopher Greif.
Good morning. I'm Christopher D. Wright, and yes, I am the ACT member for Technology Information and ACT member and Transit Riders Council member. I'm here to remind everyone that I definitely agree with the other speaker that the Omni is coming in, and soon we will have the reduced fare coming up soon. But I'm here to also support, as we know, we are working together with our advocates to make sure every technology is up to date. But we must work together of making sure that technology is being tested and work a little more better. But I'm also here to remind that the city ticket needs to be supported as well as the freedom ticket. It would be easier and much save more money to get on a railroad from wherever we are in Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, and one stop in Manhattan, Harlem, 125th Street, and other stops there in the border of Manhattan. But I'm here also to remind that if we are going to work on a lot of new things, we need to work together with the community and the active members as well. We need to make sure that our fares are staying where it is for the half fare community, for reduced fare, that's for seniors and people with disability. But we're also here today to make sure that we need to be more safe on the NYPD to please make sure to help us tomorrow with the mask force together so we can make sure that everyone must wear a mask. And let's please do our part to make sure we stay safe. I'm urging the NYPD to please help the mask force team work together and have the explorers come and join us. This will help to remind everyone that we must still wear a mask on the train and on the bus. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Danielle Avasar.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza, president of Passengers United. And I rode the subway Saturday and Sunday. And what I saw was completely deplorable, guys. Even yesterday after 4 o'clock, when those four teams started, we saw homeless individuals all over. So what I want to say to this board and to the governor and to the mayor, if you're listening, we have 469 subway stations. The subway runs 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And like I've been saying before, you need 300 National Guard troops deployed in the subway. And people will look at me and say, this guy is nuts. What's he talking about? The National Guard, they're at vaccine centers helping queue the lines. They're helping people upstate. We need them in the subway. These school nurses that have been deployed underground are not going to work. This is an epic disaster waiting to happen. And, 20 people have been, actually it's 21 people now have been hit by trains and died. There is a crisis going on in the New York City subway system. And if our elected officials are, not realizing what's going on here, my members at Passengers United, we're going to start doing patrols and we're going to be protesting and we're going to be going to their offices and demanding changes. And we're going to primary a lot of people. This is a crisis. And more people are going to die, unfortunately. And I feel bad for the police department because I was at the 34th Street Herald Square subway station last week. And a homeless individual, an EDP, set a fire to a newspaper. And I was looking for the ESU units from the NYPD. You know what those police officers told me? There's nothing we can do. And they just let him leave the station. So they should have questioned him. They should have intervened and interjected. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Danielle Avasar, followed by Barbara Russo.
Hello. I'm a mother who depends on the New York City buses. The current policy right now is for strollers to be folded and have my baby held in my arms. This is completely unsafe and contrary to every car seat rule that there is. Babies should be strapped in. I'm not sure if there's ever been a simulation of what would happen if you're holding a child and the bus gets in an accident. I unfortunately have been in a few bus accidents. The infant would fly through my arms or possibly hit a pole. I also don't know how a mother is supposed to remove a child from a stroller and also take groceries or whatever is underneath the stroller and fold it. My suggestion is to have us share this with priority seating for elderly or disabled. There has been a petition that has been signed for this. It started in 2017, 50,000 signatures, 12,000 New Yorkers, and all of us depend on public transportation. We can also not ride trains because they're not accessible, and the subway has become increasingly unsafe, or I would not take my child on it. There are thousands of bus accidents a year, so I'm not sure if we're waiting for something tragic to happen, God forbid. And this is allowed in Europe and multiple cities in the United States, so I don't understand how a progressive city such as New York has this policy in place for parents. My question is also, who is for this? Who is this benefiting? And what is the opposition to having this possibly change? That's it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Barbara Russo, followed by Jean Bryan.
Actually don't have a comment. I'm just here to listen.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Jean Bryan, followed by Jason Anthony.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Good morning, I'm Jean Ryan, President of Disabled in Action of Metro New York, DIA for short. We are very negatively affected by Access-Ride's late pickups and zero pickups. Access-Ride must schedule trips for all eligible people whenever we request one, but if we do not get picked up within 30 minutes or at all, that is considered a no-show, and in reality, it's a denial of service, which the ADA does not allow. Why does Access-Ride schedule trips they know they will not make in a timely way? Hope is not a viable strategy. The brokers and their subcontractors are not even sending out vehicles in this time frame. We just get left. In the last month, one member has been completely stranded, never picked up at all in 2.5 hours of waiting out in the winter cold to see an ill family member. Another was kept waiting so long and then lied to that they had to take a cab so that at their own expense, and was so late that they missed a good part of what they went to. Working people are super stressed about very late pickups and from being driven endlessly around. It's a systemic problem, making us wait a very long time in all weather, lying to us about when the vehicle will arrive, stranding us. When broker stats are atrocious and 80% of Access-Ride riders are on broker, this is an emergency. There is no reliability or accountability. We are not the ones who should be doing the accounting and complaining in this age of computers and GPS. It's 2022, not the 90s, but the service now is the same as then, and we continue to be told by Access-Ride to complain. No, that is a waste of our time. You know we are getting bad service. Fix it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Kara Girl.
Good morning, Handa, Craig, Rob, Jason, and the rest of the Transit Committee. Jason Anthony from the Amazon Labor Union. I was present in the press conference that Governor Kathy Hochul and New York City Mayor Eric Adams did at the Fulton Street Transit Center did to correct Charlton D'Souza of Passengers United, its 472 subway stations. And as a frequent rider of the subway system, I see the following. People smoking on subway trains. For example, on Friday, while I was going home, I saw on a Brooklyn-bound D train a homeless person smoking inside the train. Another example, on a Manhattan Bound 4 train, I saw a homeless person getting literally undressed. Even people sleeping aboard trains. Homeless people could use our system to sleep, but where are you going to send them? To Bellevue's men's shelter at 30th Street? That place is not even safe. So we have to do an audit to the BRC contract right now and get together with the city to do a better alternative, because I don't even feel safe riding the subway anymore, especially on the E, F, and J trains after midnight. And especially on stations like Nevin Street and my home station, Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center, that's
Please conclude your
is
remarks.
becoming like West 4th Street, Penn Station, and Grand Central. So let's do better, shall we? I'll see you guys in the next meeting.
Our next speaker is Kara Girl, followed by Andy Pollock.
Good morning. I'm Kara Girl, Research and Communications Associate at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. Safety has been at the forefront of most writers' minds lately, with the tragic death of Michelle Go and so many other incidents, including the things we've just begun accepting as part of our day. You can feel it underground. People standing back against the wall or poles while they wait, opting for more crowded areas at the platform, and people visibly on edge. This isn't the kind of atmosphere that makes regular riders feel welcome, and it definitely isn't the way to get new riders to opt for transit. We support the governor and mayor's new subway safety plan that includes a holistic approach to addressing the issues that riders and transit workers experience underground. It's encouraging that the city and state remain committed to working together to fix the homelessness and mental health crises, and we're glad to see a collaborative approach to bring housing, treatment, and other support to people in need. Treating the root of this complex issue is the best way to find a solution that works, including the important aspect of enforcing the code of conduct. No one should feel that living in the subway system is their only option, and being homeless in and of itself is not a crime. The long-term solution must include sufficient housing and support services above ground to ensure that people don't continue to seek shelter underground. Strategically deployed teams need to be able to bring those who may harm themselves or others out of the system and into city and state-run services. This decades-long issue requires long-term investment from all stakeholders to find a solution. There's safety in numbers, and higher ridership will help with the perception and reality of unsafe conditions underground. New discount programs like fare capping are a great start and will hopefully incentivize even more people to ride. We need a holistic approach to making transit a more enjoyable and safe environment for everyone, including making it more affordable. With safety remaining a priority for the governor, mayor, and the MTA, we're confident that a safer future for transit is within reach. The recovery of the city and the region depends on it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Andy Pollock, followed by Elizabeth Coachlin.
Thank you, Lucille. Good morning, Commissioner Mahaltis. Good morning, everyone. So before I get into my request for the Queens bus redesign, I just want to mention that we are into the mayor's new safety plan. And guess what happened? We had a stabbing in Queens at Elmhurst Avenue. So Charlton, our president and CEO of Passengers United, he's been saying that we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. It's looking like it. And, you know, I am going to give this another few weeks personally to see how this is going to work out. But I'm telling you all right now, we're going to go back to square one. It's going to be a whole nother debate coming up later this spring. So next thing I want to bring up is the Queens bus redesign. It is almost the end of the first quarter. And on the Queens bus redesign website, it claims, oh, we're supposed to have the plan. Well, it's the end of February. We still do not have the second draft of the bus redesign. March is going to come just like that. February is a very short month. So I'm hoping at the March meeting we're going to have the bus redesign for Queens because, as many of you know, I rely a lot on public transportation. I'm on a limited income. I can't afford car insurance or gas. My only way to get around is by public transportation. So when we do get the plan, I'm going to go into more of the specifics. But for now, I'm just requesting that we at least have the second draft sooner rather than later. So that concludes my remarks. I'm going to speak at CPAC later this afternoon, and hopefully I will sign up. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Elizabeth Coachland, followed by Cassium Rafucci.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me speak today. I would like to share my own personal experience about using strollers on the MTA system, and in particular of a closed stroller policy currently in place on buses, as mentioned earlier by Danielle. I gave birth in September. My son is now 5 months old. I use public transportation constantly, several times a day. Even though the subway system is faster because it has few accessible stations, I'm obliged to take the bus. First of all, when you're with your baby, you can't just easily fold a stroller. As a mom, I only have 2 hands, and folding means have one baby in one hand. Mine is currently 20 pounds, plus all the baby supplies from his stroller basket, my handbag, whatever items I have from running errands, etc. So it's a total nightmare. But more importantly, it feels very unsafe for me. Babies wiggle. Mine is both heavy and strong, and I constantly fear he could slip out of my hands while the bus is moving. Plus, when the bus brakes, I've often been extremely worried that he will bang his head against one of the metal bars or whatever could happen if there is an accident. It's truly hard to avoid really keeping your baby safe, especially when there's a lot of people around you. I don't have a nanny or a babysitter. I'm on my own, and with my child here at NYC, I don't have the means to take my baby by taxi everywhere with me. Like moms can't afford to just daily take cars to bring their babies to whatever errands they have to run. So if you could please let me and other moms be able to keep our strollers open as we board the buses, we can keep our babies safe, continue caring for them in our daily lives. Truly, being a mom in NYC is hard enough as it is, and for us moms that rely on public transportation, currently it is really a struggle. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Cassium Rafucci, followed by Murray Bowden.
Good morning, Commissioner Mahaltis, President Separino, and Transit and Bus Committee members. My name is Cassie Rafucci, and I'm a private citizen of Coney Island, Brooklyn. I would like to see an enforcement on the police and social workers for the mental health individuals. My reasoning for this testimony is I witnessed a mental health individual almost board a Broad Street-bound J train at the Bowery stop, and this seriously needs to stop, with the mental health individuals on board the trains and making passengers feel not safe traveling on public transportation. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Murray Bowden.
Morning, Craig. Great news. Metro North this morning, Kathy said they're going to paint the red box at Roaring Brook, black and white, ASAP. That's the break that everybody's been waiting for. When Danny had his crew put up the slideshow this morning, the first one was road markings, completely wrong. You documented it, gives me the chance to prove they're not following the law. So I've asked Danny to set up a meeting between me and his staff to go over the manual. How does that relate to speeding up buses? Well, you know, I've made some suggestions that you can speed up the buses with better markings on the lanes. It's in the works. Somebody is listening. So follow up on that. Metro North is committed to changing the first. All it takes is the first. The rest of the dominoes fall. Danny's going to help me on bridges and tunnels. Do what you can. It's in the works, and it will go forward. Thanks. And to the rest of you, interesting world. I got 36 seconds. Most of you don't watch what's going on up here. The system has to change. Public comment was here before there was internet, before I could read the minutes before. If you want to do your emails, do it in the back room. Don't disrespect the speakers. Pay attention to the speakers. Had that this morning with somebody else. And thank everybody at the at the MTA, who's taught me what I needed to know to make a decent presentation.
Our next speaker is Maria Elgalvis, followed by Omar Vera.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. I'm also here to speak about the stroller policies in the buses. I am also a mother of a child that I had May of last year, and I have depended on public transportation to run errands and just go on with our daily lives. It's been very difficult to do so, having to close the stroller before boarding the bus. The reason is because we have babies who move, babies who weigh, as Elizabeth said, 20 pounds, or babies that just don't want to stay still during the ride. Just yesterday, we were heading over to Central Park. I had my baby on one hand, on one arm, and I was using the other to pay for our fare. And the bus driver was asking me to close the stroller. Had I not had somebody with me, I wouldn't have been able to take out all the bags from underneath the stroller, closed it, and board the bus and hold my baby safely. Thankfully, this extra person was able to be there for me yesterday, but this is not my daily case, as I am currently with the baby and my husband is working full time. It's very important to us to keep our baby safe, to feel safe while we're riding, and to be able to go on with our chores and daily life routines. So we would like to continue this petition to have this policy changed and find a solution, which could be add priority seatings for moms with their babies or caregivers with their babies, so that we can keep our strollers open and our babies safe. Thank you. And I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Our last speaker is Omar Vera.
Good morning. Oh, is it on? Yes. Good morning, MTA Board's Transit and Bus Committee. Welcome to the February edition. Now, let me just mention something regarding Omni. I see that you're making this promotional deal that if you tap like more than 12 times in a week, you get free fares, endless free fares until the week is up. But the week should begin on Sunday, not Monday, because the calendar, Sunday and Saturday are like at opposite ends of the calendar, as you can see. That's why they're called weekends. But yes, thanks for that. And also please heed what the other speakers are mentioning regarding the various topics, as they are serious. Whatever they're saying, whatever they're saying is very, very important. And last but not least, I'm still looking for the day when the C is extended to Lefferts Boulevard and all 8 service runs the Rockaways. I'm still waiting for that service. You can still do it. See, Andrew agrees. Yes, Andrew. He's been advocating for that for years. And still waiting. And I'm still waiting to see how the R211 is gonna be. Because, like I said, the A train, the A and C, especially, the A and the C, desperately need new cars. They already have the R179, but they need the R211 to get the R46 off the road. All right. That said, thanks for having me here, and I'll see you around.
Chair Mahaltis, that concludes public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Members of the committee, thank you for, I just wanted to interrupt your normal process and join with you today to reflect on the announcement last week by Governor Hochul and Mayor Adams with respect to safety in the subway system. Both the governor and the mayor are making a historic investment, not just in transit security, but also in mental health and homeless services. This is the kind of leadership that we at the MTA have been waiting for, especially on the city part, as the city is the entity that controls both the police department and many of the relevant social service agencies. So we're thrilled with Mayor Adams' extraordinary leadership. By deploying new mental health outreach teams and police officers, we, all of us, can participate in connecting vulnerable New Yorkers with the services and supportive housing that they deserve so that they can live with dignity. No one should feel like roughing it on the subway is their best alternative to survive. The city and the state's new approach, which critically includes a stronger commitment to enforcing the MTA's code of conduct, the mayor was very clear about that, is the right path forward. And as the mayor said, we're not going to be able to unravel decades of ineffective policy in a single day or a single weekend, as we found out this past weekend. But with time and with the leadership of the extraordinary team at the NYPD, represented here today by Transit Bureau Chief Jason Wilcox, I am confident these efforts will pay off. There is no time to waste. As we keep hearing from our riders, the situation is less than ideal. This weekend, there were way too many violent incidents on the transit system. The mayor spoke out again last night about that. Thankfully, nobody was seriously injured, but we cannot stand by as these conditions continue. So I'm looking forward to working with the city and the state to keep New Yorkers safe. And let's not forget, we need a system that feels safe and comfortable for all New Yorkers to support the region's recovery. It really is essential. So in connection with all of this, I just wanted to quickly play for the members of the board who may not have been at that event, a quick clip of the remarks that we heard from our mayor and our governor at the event last week.
We see New Yorkers clearly suffering in plain sight, and people have long thought that the rules and regulations require them to be just left there and ignored. That's not how we treat God's children.
We've betrayed New Yorkers, and that was the state of existence. We pretended as though we didn't see it, and we allowed them to live in inhumane environments, and that is not what my administration is going to do.
To our staff, to the heroic transit workers, or to riders who are yelling and ranting, we want them to get help. We know that they must be helped, but they can't stay in the subway system.
Officers will enforce key elements of the MTA and New York City Transit Authority rules. There are rules.
The mayor's promise to step up enforcement of that MTA code of conduct, and I want to thank the mayor for pointing out that we actually have a flyer and it summarizes it really succinctly. But that enforcement commitment is a game changer.
Things that happen in decades, we can't wait decades to fix. But it's not going to be fixed on Monday morning. It's going to be fixed with coordination, consistency, commitment, and dedication.
My members have been crying for this for a long time.
So I'm here today as an advocate and an ally. I'm with you. I'm here to say that something it has to be done, and I see it's gonna be done.
This city made too much progress over the years to fall backward. The police and the public have to be partners and collaborate with other professionals, social services, and clinicians to make this city safer.
No more smoking, no more doing drugs, no more sleeping, no more doing barbecues on the subway system, no more just doing whatever you want. No, those days are over. Swipe your Metro card, ride the system, get off at your destination.
I'm going to step away and let the normal business of this committee go forth, but I just want to say again that we are so appreciative of both the mayor and the governor, and not least of the NYPD as a partner as we go forward with this extraordinary mission. The mayor said it right. This is not going to be fixed overnight, and this weekend was a challenging weekend, but the commitment and the beginning of that change has been made, and the process is underway. So we just want to acknowledge our appreciation to those leaders who have taken this extraordinary step. Thank you.
Thank you, Jano. Thank you to the governor, to the mayor, to the NYPD. I know together we'll continue to make our system that much more safer. We're ready? Okay. I will now make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 2022 meeting.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Andrew.
A couple of corrections, if
Absolutely.
I may. On page 11, the DOT commissioner's name is misspelled. It is not Adonis, it's Ydanis, Rodriguez.
Okay.
And on page 12, right above, at the end of the paragraph, it says would revert with specifics. It should say will return with specifics. And if those are corrected, I move them.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as corrected? David? Second? Robert? Okay. All those in favor? Against? Motion carries. Okay. Greg, you want to take us through the work plan? What do you need? Yeah. Are you going to take us through the work plan?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, there is a change to the work plan. The EEO and diversity reports will now be reported in June.
Great. Perfect. Okay. You want to start with the president's report?
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, and thank you, Hader, and thank you, Jano, for your staunch and continued commitment on safety and security in our system, something our customers and our own transit heroes continue to ask for. Keeping with this theme, early this month, we honored 4 brave men, Officers Muhammad, Garcia, Langhorne, and Riddick, who put themselves in harm's way to put out a fire at the 181st Street Station. They remained calm and focused, relied on their training, and prevented a more dangerous situation from happening. I'm grateful for the quick action of these officers, our allied guards, and others. Transit will continue to leverage the more than 200 security guards in our system to complement both the NYPD and MTA Police Department efforts. In addition, I would like to highlight the continued benefits we are seeing from our deployable cameras. Our security team has processed thousands of downloads, and many of those resulted in arrests for crimes ranging from graffiti and vandalism to armed robbery, arson, and even more serious crimes in and out of our system. Cameras continue to be a critical tool for security in our stations. I would like to turn towards another topic by offering my best wishes for a happy Lunar New Year and by acknowledging that February is Black History Month, giving us an opportunity to reflect on the accomplishments of Black Americans in this country. Marking these events serves as an important reminder that we must persist in creating a diverse and inclusive workforce, because the evidence is clear that a more diverse workforce creates a better, smarter, more creative environment that benefits us all. I remain focused on ensuring that we continue to prioritize diversity and equity in our workplace. And this commitment extends to creating more equity in our transit network as well. In addition to the programs Hader already mentioned, fair fares and omni fare capping, we are redesigning our bus networks to expand service to a larger share of residents in underserved communities and communities of color, as well as extending the 2nd Avenue subway to East Harlem, one of the largest communities of color in New York City. Jano is committed to creating more equity in our system with a focus on buses reaching a wider service area, and he has our full support. We look forward to implementing these and other important programs. Now to ridership. I'm happy to report that our latest numbers are coming in at 4.4 million riders, or about 60% of our pre-pandemic daily riders.
It's gone up.
Subway's post-Omicron ridership high so far this month was 3.11 million on Thursday, February 10th. Buses high was on the same day at 1.42 million, and we had almost 24,000 paratransit trips on February 9th. Thank you again to the entire team who managed the Omicron-induced crew shortages. You met these challenges head-on, and help transit deliver strong, consistent service throughout. I'd like to close by reiterating that we look forward to the close partnership with the state and city to ensure a safe ride for our customers. I am committed to this increased cooperation and engagement that can only help make our system safer. The safety and security of our system is central to bringing our ridership back. Thank you.
I think, Pat Warren, you're going to make a couple comments?
I think Jano said it all earlier, so I think that we can continue on. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. So now I'll turn it over to Jim. Jim, welcome. He's going to discuss subways.
Thanks, Ada, and good morning, all. First, let me start by introducing myself in Demetrius' absence. As mentioned, my name is Jim Compton. Since December, I have been the Executive Vice President, Customer Environment and Facilities within the Subways Division. I have been with the MTA for nearly 32 years, working at both Metro-North Railroad and Long Island Railroad, most recently as Long Island Railroad's Chief Stations Officer. To provide more accountability within the Department of Subways, a recent reorganization placed emphasis towards improving the overall customer environment as well as facilities, centralizing all station and facility maintenance under the same control. I look forward to working with you all. Now for January's performance. First, I'd like to welcome back our colleagues in the subways who are affected by the regional rise in COVID cases associated with the Omicron variant that began in December. As crews returned to work, we were able to incrementally restore express service on the J, 6, and 7 lines and full service on the B, W, and Z lines by January 17th. Service performance in January also returned to strong levels, which we saw in the fall, after the Omicron-related dip in December. By actively managing service and crews, service delivered rose to 92.2% in January. Compared to pre-pandemic levels, additional platform time was just 2 seconds longer, and additional train time was 20 seconds faster than January 2020. These results demonstrate our proactive mitigation of the impacts of Omicron variant on service and customer experience. The Subways team also successfully managed a significant snowstorm on Saturday, January 29th, that dumped nearly a foot of snow across the city. Preparations began well before the storm as teams salted and sanded entrances at outdoor areas of 472 stations, relocated trains to underground storage locations, activated switch heaters, checked airlines on signal equipment, installed scraper shoes on cars, deployed de-icer trains, prepared snow throwers, and staffed local storm fighting centers as well as our incident command center. During and after the storm, teams kept service running as they cleared snow from tracks and platforms and addressed any incidents as they occurred. The only outage we faced was service to the Rockaways, where our colleagues in buses provided alternative service until we were able to restore train service by the following morning, a Sunday, and service was consistently running well before rush hour on Monday. This could not be possible without the thousands of employees that showed up in the field supporting this tremendous effort. The Omicron-related employee availability issues caused several impacts in our metrics, including lower elevator and escalator availability and MDBF. Even still, we saw stronger results in these areas in the second half of January as crews have returned to work. Subways looks forward to resuming the improved trend we saw before Omicron as newly hired crew members complete their induction training, and we remain hyper-focused on improving performance. Once again, the Subways team has shown their dedication to New Yorkers despite personal difficulty, keeping trains and our customers moving through COVID, snowstorms, and a myriad of other challenges they are faced with. They are true heroes and deserve our thanks for everything they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim? If not, we'll move on. Let's go to Frank for an update on buses and paratransit. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning. Thank you, Ada. So I'm happy to report that bus performance in January was strong, even amidst the Omicron surge and 2 major snowstorms. Service delivery was 91.3% for 58% of pre-COVID ridership, and improved to approximately 95% in the last 2 weeks of the month as COVID-19 cases flattened. Weight assessment saw a slight improvement, and customer journey time improved by 3% against the prior month. As ridership returns, we know how critical buses are to New York and equity recovery. We continue to work hard alongside our city partners to meet several important milestones this year to increase bus priority, including the implementation of new bus lanes and busways. Network redesign is another core initiative. As an update, we are proceeding with the much-anticipated Bronx local bus network redesign. Starting in March, New York City DOT will begin installing new bus panels and destination signs in order to be ready for the implementation of the redesign on June 26th. New York City Transit will also be installing information about the redesign at bus stops in the Bronx. I look forward to updating you all on our efforts in the upcoming months. I want to take a moment and thank my dedicated team for successfully navigating the first 2 major storms of the year. Most recently, Winter Storm Keenan dumped over a foot of snow in parts of the city and brought blizzard-like condition. The team was prepared, chaining 2,400 buses and strategically placing snow fighters to operate in highly trafficked areas. Our road operation team was out in force, enabling us to provide continuous service throughout the storm for those customers who need us the most. While our efforts were successful, we recognize there is always room for improvement. One of the areas we are committed to working on is improved coordination with our city partners regarding timely removal of snow from our bus stops and shelters. Finally, this month, New York City Transit is submitting a blanket requisition for the board to approve an RFP authorizing resolution to utilize the RFP method for the procurement of up to 1,729 buses remaining in our 2020 to 24 capital plan. These buses will replace the buses that have reached their end of life, 12-year useful life. This represents a new and deliberate strategy to streamline and shorten the procurement timeline with a goal of getting new buses on our streets faster. Lou Montanti will provide the details of this request later this morning. That concludes the bus report.
I think we have a question from David.
Yeah, this is in the nature of being a special pleader. I just had a new grandchild last week, and hearing the 3 public speakers talking about the issue of strollers and having to carry young children in unsafe conditions, I'd like to know what the policy is and what we might do to modify it to make it both safe for people riding, but also for infants in arms.
So David, Craig and I were having a sidebar conversation. I don't know who wants to answer this. Craig, Frank?
So we have been looking at this policy for quite some time in regards to system safety. I mean, it's a catch-22. I think, if you allow a stroller on board, there's no way to secure it. So if a bus stops short, you have a safety issue. Listening to our customers today, I think we'll go back and have that discussion again. In doing some benchmarking, different agencies handle it differently. But we will take a look at it again.
And you report back to us.
Yes,
Great.
and we'll report back. Yes.
Great, Randy here.
Yes,
Randy.
Yeah, it's having that experience about 10 years ago when my grandkids were living in the city. I sympathize with what the women said. It is very difficult. Most of the time, though, my wife and I were traveling together, so we didn't have to worry about having to find someone that could handle that. But this is definitely a concern, and we need to revisit that policy. Thank you.
Duly noted.
Again, just one thing. Again, we're going to go revisit, but the challenge around it is not having a place to secure the stroller. So that's really the concern. But again, we'll talk system safety and we'll revisit that and come back to you for sure.
Right. Well, hopefully we'll find the middle ground, Andrew. Okay. Frank, you want to continue with the paratransit report?
Yes. I'm happy to report that amidst the Omicron surge continuing industry-wide driver shortages, December performance saw clear improvements, reversing the trend in performance declines in prior months. This can be attributed to the actions taken by our team to help stabilize and improve service for our customers. For primary carrier service, the 30-minute window for on-time performance improved slightly from the prior month and is above goal at 95%. For broker service, the 30-minute window improved by 6%, returning to the 90% performance level for the first time since August 2021. Primary carrier no-shows per 1,000 scheduled trips improved significantly with a 24% improvement from the prior month. Broker no-shows also improved by 19%. This also contributed to a better call center performance, with calls answered up or improving by 4% from the previous month, and call wait times improved by 29%. In addition, transportation-related complaints decreased by 28%. While some of these improvements were facilitated by an Omicron-related dip in weekday ridership, our aggressive efforts to improve service have clearly been effective. This was evident in the first half of December, prior to the Omicron surge, and in the preliminary results in the second half of January, when COVID-19 cases began flattening and our ridership began returning. We continue to remain laser-focused on working daily with our brokers and carriers to improve service and increase capacity. And finally, I want to thank the paratransit team for their significant efforts in successfully managing 2 major snowstorms in January. As a result of their dedication and hard work, we were able to provide continuous carrier and broker service for those customers who need us throughout the storm. That concludes the paratransit report.
Thank you, Frank. Do we have any questions? If not, we'll move on. Carmel, you want to give us an update on accessibility, please?
Absolutely. Good morning.
Good morning.
The MTA accessibility team joins our colleagues across the agency and in the state in celebrating the significant decrease in COVID-19 positivity rates in New York. With the end of the statewide mask mandate, we remind customers that masks are still required on public transportation, including in our paratransit vehicles, for vaccinated and unvaccinated customers alike. Please join us in continuing to respect our fellow New Yorkers' health and safety by wearing your mask, as well as continuing to return to transit. Customers who have recently traveled on subways on nights and weekends may have noticed a number of service changes, especially over the President's Day holiday, as well as ongoing elevator replacement projects around the system. These service changes are required to facilitate important projects to repair and improve our systems. However, we know that being able to plan your trip at any time and on any day is important for our customers. So we are working to get service change and elevator status information out in every possible format and every medium available to us. We remind our customers that you can check new.mta.info before traveling, or look for more information on our screens, in stations, or on-car announcements to ensure that your trip is not interrupted by unexpected service changes or elevator projects. Lastly, we are happy to share that the 2 smartphone apps we are piloting through the Transit Tech Lab Accessibility Challenge are almost ready for customer testing. The Navalance wayfinding application is being tested on our M23 SBS line using colorful QR-style codes. Navalance helps customers who are blind and or low vision navigate to the exact location of our bus stops and helps all customers easily access bus arrival and crowding information. We are additionally testing Evelity, an indoor Bluetooth beacon-based wayfinding application at J Street Metrotech station. This app provides step-by-step guidance and information to help customers with access needs more easily navigate our stations. We continue to work with our partners at the Tech Lab and our vendors to adjust the design of both solutions to optimize performance. We look forward to the beginning of customer feedback collection in the next few months to evaluate the effectiveness of these products. These are just few examples of how we're working, as you heard from Chris before, to leverage technology to enhance accessibility throughout the systems. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all next month.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Q? If not, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah for an update on strategy and customer experience. Sarah?
Thanks, Heda. So over the past month, we've been working hard on leading the development of the new MTA Best Fares Creative and the travel promotion program we launched this month. MTA Best Fares aims to encourage New Yorkers to get back on the subways, buses, and trains by offering fares that are more affordable, more flexible, and more fair. The campaign is composed of animations displaying on digital screens across the system and print posters on subway and railroad cars, buses, and in stations without screens. A social media component also launched this month. For subway and bus customers, the primary element of Best Fares is Omni weekly fare capping, which begins on Monday, February 28th. With fare capping, customers will ride free for the rest of the week after taking 12 subway or local bus trips, tapping with the same card or device Monday through Sunday. So again, just want to make sure everybody knows, even if you have a watch or a phone, you have to tap the same device. Same with an Omni card versus a credit card. It always has to be the same device. So don't want anyone to get tripped up on that. Really excited to make sure and see that everybody can use the system effectively. We'll be out in stations teaching everybody about the fare capping pilot and making sure that everybody has what they need to participate in the program as well. We're excited to give customers the benefits of a weekly unlimited pass without needing to commit to and buy the pass in advance. Also, a quick reminder that Strategy and Customer Experience will be leading the 18th Mask Force tomorrow, so join us. We're glad positivity rates are decreasing again, but just need to remind everyone, I noticed this morning there were some folks that were not wearing masks that just need constant reminders. You know, they're sitting under the signage and you just cringe. But that being said, we'll be out there just more proactively reminding customers and handing out free masks. They're also still available at every station booth. So if anybody forgets one at home or takes them off or just wants a clean one, please come to our station agents and they'll be happy to assist. Our telephone contact center performance improved further in January, with average call wait time decreasing 64% versus December 2021 to 138 seconds. Still too long, but we're getting there. The calls answered rate correspondingly increased to 88.3% from 72.4% last month. I really thank our customer engagement teams for their continued work. I know how tired you guys are. Keep going. We're getting some help. It's on the way. So really thank you for your constant dedication over these long COVID months. Customer complaints about accessorized service decreased further last month to 439.3 per 100,000 journeys, 51% lower than the previous month and 60% lower than the peak in November 2021. So as Frank mentioned, really on the right road here. So thank you to those teams and everybody working on those broker arrangements. Subway complaints, however, increased to 5.42, 39% higher than December and 11.3% higher than January 2021, which usually does happen with significant weather events, which we saw this past month. So we'll see what happens in February, and we'll continue to do what we can to keep those complaints down. That's it for me, Heda. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Do we have any questions for Sarah? Okay, if not, we'll move on. Safety and security, Bobby, you want to update us?
Good morning, everybody. So when comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one, subway customer accident rates decrease. It's worth noting that these 12-month rates have decreased each month since March of 2021. Bus collisions, customer accidents, and injuries increased when comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one. However, bus collisions decreased slightly and collision injuries declined when compared to the most recent pre-pandemic period. Employee lost time accidents showed a decrease when comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one, and we have seen an increase in subway fires when comparing the last 12-month period to the previous one. Debris fires have seen a slight decline due to subways' enhanced cleaning and utilization of vacuum trains. It should be noted that for January, vandalism accounted for 40% of the fires. NYPD has made some arrests in connection with these fires, and we continue to work with the NYPD to identify patterns to aid in making more arrests. And with that, I'm going to stop here and ask Chief Wilcox to please give the crime report. Chief?
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to begin with the mayor's subway safety plan. Last Friday, I was privileged to be present at the meeting, at the press conference, as they announced the plan. We are thankful to be added as a valued, important stakeholder in this plan as we move together, as a team to really engage our homeless New Yorkers and to help them get service, support, and the housing that they need. So last night and between 4 p.m. and about midnight and earlier this morning from about 11 p.m. last night to overnight to about 7 a.m., over 24 Transit Bureau police officers escorted multiple teams from Department of Homeless Service and Department of Health and Mental Hygiene on multiple lines throughout the system as they engaged the homeless. So last night, in effect, was opening night for our effort to engage the homeless and get them housed. We anticipate that this process, this endeavor, will be going every night, 7 days a week, between those evenings hours and those overnight hours, until further notice. So we've been planning this. I know it just started last night, but we've been working on this for weeks, just working out the logistics of it, the staffing, the planning. So when it started last night, we were ready to go, and it went fairly seamlessly. So this will continue. So that the homeless is obviously one aspect of the safety plan for the subways. And regarding the homeless, we know that enforcement of rules and regs really is not the long-term solution to getting them housing, and we understand that. But we're also deeply committed to enforcing order and the rules and regs that were mentioned earlier. So this is not new, but we've been working on this for weeks, for the last several weeks, beginning right to the beginning of this year, really stepping up what needs to be done to make the system safer. So, with that, when you look at arrests from the beginning of the year, they're up 54% in transit, up 74% in the last 4 weeks. When you look at enforcement of rules and regs, we've written nearly 12,000 summonses since the incept of the new year. That's a 17% increase. 9,600 of those are for fare evasion, obviously a bellwether crime. We know it, we're aware of it, and we're going to continue to address it. But that's not all we're addressing. There are those other indicators and quality of life offenses that happen on the train that affect the riders in a very disturbing way, and we're looking to address those as well. Since the beginning of the year, we've written 752 summonses for smoking, 409 summonses for drinking, 328 summonses for obstructing the seats, 151 summonses for public urination. So this effort to improve the quality of life for the riders on the subway system, this proactive effort will continue. So one of the things from day one that I've been talking to my officers in transit is about visibility, uniformed train patrols. We have to be visible. People have to see us. And when they see us, and people have told me this again and again, when they see our officers on the platforms, riding the trains, they feel safer. They want to see us. So in that aspect of it, we have a program where officers from patrol precincts are also supplementing what we're doing in transit by stopping their cars, getting out, coming into the transit system, and doing a vertical patrol all the way down to the platform just to see if everything's all right. So in that program, we call them 75T, as in train, where patrol's coming in. 60,000 verticals from patrol into the system since the beginning of the year. In addition, our transit officers have done 47,000 directed train patrols, 63,000 train station inspections on top of their normal post coverage. So are we ramping up our aspect to be more visible? Absolutely. We're very dedicated to that concept. We will continue to be visible. We will continue to be proactive. We want you to see us on the trains, on the platforms, and we want you to be, and the result of that, we want you to feel safer. So obviously, it was a busy weekend. There was several assaults. We've been busy, and we've been working hard to address that. So over the last weeks, felony assaults in the transit system are actually down about 5% from where they were compared to last year. But what is disturbing as I look at the felony assaults over so far this year, 40% involve cutting instruments. So again, very significant, very serious, very dangerous. Our arrests for cutting instruments so far over the last 4 weeks are up 79% and up 84% for the year. So when an incident happens, we quickly respond and we quickly get our detectives involved. Over half, 52% of the 73 felony assaults so far this year have an arrest attached to them. The others are being actively investigated by our detectives. So just when you look at other crime in the system, one of the crimes that I'm always very attuned to, having been the prior commanding officer of central robbery, is robbery. So we're up 87% in robbery year to date, 88 versus 47. We're taking a very hard look at that. I mean, we've made 54 robbery arrests, but obviously I don't want anybody to get robbed in the subway system. So we're taking a very, very hard look into that crime. So when a felony assault does happen, obviously we react quickly. You know, there was an incident last week that got a lot of attention, and rightly so, because it happened really in daylight hours on a weekday, 14th Street, First Avenue on the L, where a male who was breakdancing, who gets on at Union Square, heading towards Brooklyn, begins to breakdance, brushes up against another male who was carrying a bag filled with cans and bottles, brushes up against him, that male stabs the breakdancer. Got a lot of attention. Within hours, we were able to get images, transit images, of the suspect. We were able to get them out to patrol. The next day, less than 24 hours later, since the incident, transit officers see the male suspect wearing the exact same clothes, and they're able to bring him into custody and bring him, and arrest him. There's another felony assault that I just want to mention that really struck a chord with me, having responded to the Michelle Go incident. Less than a week later at Fulton Street, we had a male pushed in front of the tracks. Again, a Sunday morning, daylight hours, unprovoked, very scary. The male was very lucky that he only received minor injuries. Again, initiated a very vigorous response and a vigorous investigation. Once again, transit cameras were able to get images out to our detectives, to our members on patrol, and were able to identify that suspect, and an arrest was subsequently made. So one other thing I just want to touch on, really in closing, because it was mentioned more than once, and it's something that's very serious, because obviously the subways are in an enclosed environment, and that's fire, arson, criminal mischief, setting a fire. So again, we were looking at, I know Bob just mentioned it, we were looking at like 30 incidents of fires being set, mostly in garbage, the trash cans, the solo cans, between January 28th and February 19th. So alone, between 2/8 and 2/9, we had like 16 incidents of fires. So during that evening, we had, on the 8th, we had 8 incidents along the one line, during the course of a number of hours. So, again, working very closely with the MTA, we had our supervisor in rail control getting information from stations, relaying it right to us. We're relaying it right to the field. Our borough inspector from Manhattan, Steve Hill, is redeploying resources along the one line. And so, that kind of quick collaboration just is so important. And it worked rather well that night. We're able to, again, get images from transit of the suspect. We're able to get them out to patrol of the person that we believe set a lot of these fires on the one line. 2 days later, an MTA worker sees a male set a trash can fire in Queens at Elmhurst on 90th Street. They alert us. Our officers respond immediately. We're able to stop that man, arrest him, and we're able to subsequently, through our arson and explosion detective squad, make arrests for some of those fires along the one line. So multiple incidents, but we've arrested 7 different people. We have an 8th person of interest identified who set, we believe, 4 fires in the 7th precinct area along the F line between Delancey, Essex, and East Broadway. We're looking closely at him. We have images of other people that have set these fires, and our detectives are working very hard on that. So I know arson was mentioned a couple times. Trust me, it initiated a very strong response, not just in the investigations, but in how we deployed our resources. As these things are happening in real time, working very closely with the MTA at real control as they get information from stations. So, again, I'm going to close it with that, and thank you for your support. It's very important to us that we have, those that are listening, those that are in this room, the support. We're working hard, and we're determined to make the system safer for the riders. Thank you.
So, thank you, Chief. Just a couple of questions. So, I believe that if we work together as a team, we at least try to take away and solve the problems. So you talked about enforcement, and you said that the numbers were really good. But when someone gets arrested for fare evasion, or they're moving their carriages and stuff, do the police officers tell them to leave, and do they actually make the people leave the system? Because I think that goes a long way. People see that, and they know that we're moving in the right direction.
So just, obviously fare evasion is really, it accounts for the majority of our enforcement, our summonses.
Right.
Like I said, 5,000 summonses issued in the last 4 weeks, 9,600 so far this year for fare evasion. So those people are not obviously allowed in,
right,
without paying their fare. They're given a summons and they're ejected out.
Okay.
Other people that are given summonses when we solve, if they're on the train and they're smoking, we give them a summons. They may or may not be ejected depending on the scenario. Each encounter is unique. So I don't want to, there's no blanket statement. Our officers, we give them a lot of leeway. There's nobody more skilled in riding and understanding the subway system than our transit officers. They're in there every day. They've been there for years. They're very adept at it, and they're problem solvers. And I have to give them the leeway to solve the problem. So they might handle, each scenario slightly different, but there are times that people are ejected from the system. Absolutely.
Okay. And I appreciate what you said, that what you tell your officers, there's nothing more. When people visibly see police officers on the platforms or in the trains, they feel safer. I mean, I know I feel safer. So,
right, and so just like Sunday was the Lunar Parade in Chinatown, right. I was walking through some of the stations where I had officers deployed. I had canine officers. I had people riding the trains, and just particularly some of the busy stations like Delancey and Essex and Grand Street, people were saying thank you. So I know when they see us, they're glad to see us, and they want to see us, and we have to keep pushing that message forward to our officers.
Okay. And we still have the 1,000 officers in the system at any given point, or
So
that number fluctuates?
The number fluctuates, but we are still holding to about 1,000 additional supplemental coverages per day into the transit system on average, yes.
Okay. And then in the beginning of your remarks, you were talking about how you target the system. Is it a different part of the system every night, or?
Regarding the homeless initiative?
Yes, the homeless
So,
initiative, sorry.
So our role is sort of unique in this, that we are basically in a support role.
Okay.
Our officers go out two officers go out with each team from DHS and mental hygiene. As they go out, they've chosen 6 different train lines to sort of target for the beginning, which is the A, the E, the 1, the 2/3, and the N and the R. Those are the lines that right now we're directing our resources to.
Okay.
Last night was opening night, so there may be, each night might be different where they pick a different lines, because they're going to hit multiple lines during the course of any given tour. But those are the 6 lines that they picked, and we're committed to working with them along those 6 train lines.
Okay, thank you. Andrew and then David.
Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Jason. How are you,
Good
Chief?
to see you.
So good to see you again, and
Thank you.
thank you and your people for everything you're doing. As everybody has said, seeing officers makes everybody feel safe. I think getting the homeless the services that they need is extremely important. It's not safe to live in the subways and inhale rail dust 24 hours, 7 days a week. I'm wondering if the social service folks that are dealing with the homeless follow up to see if somebody was rendered services, if they have returned, or what their next place is, rather than just have them return after they've done what your officers and the social service
Right.
folks have suggested they do.
So, I mean, obviously, going back months and many months, we've been working with BRC, and from what I'm gathering, I've only been here, about a month now, but they do have repeat customers where they engage somebody, they get them shelter, and then they find them again. So, is that possibly going to happen? Hopefully not, but it's always a possibility that as these teams go out and they encounter the homeless, that they may encounter them again. But I mean, the goal is to get them housed, to get them permanent housing, and that's we're committed to helping in
Housing,
that.
food,
Yes,
services.
support.
Yes.
Medical treatment, everything. It's that somebody used the word holistic. It's that, and really the last layer of this is enforcement. We don't want to police or enforce laws on the homeless. We want to get them what they need, and that's to get these New Yorkers homes, and we're committed to that aspect of it. And then there's the other side of the safety plan, which we're also equally determined and committed to, is to addressing quality of life infractions in the subway system.
Yes, and I'm so happy to hear that you're cutting down, you're stopping fare evasion, because most of the folks that are committing crimes obviously did not pay their fare. So if you stop it at the turnstiles, you've stopped that. But I do have a question about your officers. Many people have said to me, I love seeing the police, but a lot of them aren't wearing masks. Are they given instructions to actually wear masks?
They are given instructions to wear masks. It's brought down from the supervision on down. Does it always happen? No, but it's something that we're continually trying to impress on them the importance of. I understand it, and we're pushing it down. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
David?
Yeah, this is not directly on this. I have talked with people in the social service world, and one of the difficulties we're talking about frontline social workers. As you actually dig into this, the compensation for the frontline groups range $15 to $18 an hour, and they're not highly trained. This is the toughest work. I can't even imagine doing it. And I've been in the field of social work and the rest for years. It has to be the toughest work imaginable to get people to move on. So this isn't directed at you, Chief, but the notion that we have to make sure that we're adequately preparing and paying people being asked to do this frontline work if we want the outcomes we're talking about. So it was more a comment as we go forward. I will, at another point in this meeting, talk about the fare evasion issue. I still have remaining issues on the fare evasion arrests, the lack of demographics, and the fact that there doesn't seem a sense of equity. I'm not condoning fare evasion, but it doesn't look like we're treating the buses, to be frank, which is the major hemorrhaging point, in the same way we're teaching the subways. And I've also lost the kind of thing I had 4 years ago of getting the demographics of who's being given a tab summons and who's being arrested. I used to get that. Now there's nothing. We don't know which stations. We don't know what the demographics are. And we're going to need that to make sure equity occurs. I'm not saying we should in any way stop tab summonses, the rest. I am worried, however, that we're going to almost expect that particularly low-income people couldn't pay $275 or whatever. The likelihood of paying a tab summons is even further and remote, and they start to build a record of fare evasion. So, but I'll bring that up later. I'd like to have some clarity of why we're treating buses and subways so differently. Not your issue.
Any other questions for Bobby or for?
Ada?
Yes.
Oh, Ada.
Brandy, I'm
Hi,
sorry, I
good-
didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
It's okay. Good afternoon. Welcome, Chief. I look forward to meeting you in person. I'm looking at page 105, I think it is. Hang on, 103 about the hate crimes. And it seems that they've gone up, and that's unfortunate. But I know that there's been a lot in the news lately about Asian and what they want to call AAPI, and that's not a category that's listed. I was just curious about that.
So actually, as I was getting ready for this meeting, I did look at the hate crime stats so far this year as they relate to transit. So about 15% of the hate crimes in New York City are occurring in transit. Right now, there's about 13 hate crimes versus 8 same time last year. So regarding Asian hate crimes, I believe, and I haven't checked to the minute, but I don't believe there were any recorded in transit so far in 2022. But let's go back to 2021, where there were 32 Asian hate crimes in transit. So obviously there was last year was a very significant year overall for the city. And last year, 17% of the hate crimes were in transit. Now it's about 15%. But it's something from my prior life in the Detective Bureau I looked very, very hard on and was very much aware of. And I'm going to continue to be very focused on working with the Hate Crime Task Force and anybody involved in, investigating hate crimes. It's unacceptable, and we're going to work very hard to address it whenever, and hopefully it doesn't happen, but when it does, we will be quick and decisive in our response to it.
Okay, carrying the mantle from my former colleague, Chuck Murder, we're also concerned about the Jewish, used to be called the Semitic hate crimes. That's been a big increase as well. So all hate crimes should be investigated and try to be minimized.
And
Thank you very much.
They are. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Chief. All right. We have one transit procurement this month, which Lou will present. Lou?
Yes, thank you. The New York City Transit procurement package includes one item, an authorization to use competitive RFPs for upcoming bus procurements. As Frank mentioned earlier, 1,729 buses remain in the 2020 to 2024 capital plan, combined for both New York City Transit and MTA bus, to replace buses that have reached the end of their 12-year useful life. New York City Transit has consistently requested and received board approval to utilize the RFP process for the competitive acquisition of buses, as it affords greater ability to not only take into account project price, but to weigh additional factors such as the quality of the proposer and product, delivery, negotiation of contract terms such as warranty and payment terms, and any other factors that are deemed relevant to operations. In the past, we've submitted these requests to the board on an iterative basis prior to each bus procurement taking place. By requesting this blanket authorization, the procurement lead time will be streamlined and shortened, supporting the expedited acquisition of all electric buses and other replacement buses in the capital plan. Upon completion of each RFP, New York City Transit will seek board approval for each contract to be awarded. I request your approval of this agenda item.
So Bob, Lou, just to be clear, you're going to come back to us before you actually procure the buses?
For
Okay.
any award that results from this, as we would normally do, we would come back to the board for approval
Great.
prior to awarding the
Okay.
contract.
Motion, David, thank you. Second, Andrew. Any abstentions? Motion passed. Thank you. Okay. Any other business? No other business, Greg? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn? David, second. Rhonda? Oh, I'm sorry, David. I apologize, David. David, your mic, we can't hear you. Okay,
I'm at 231, the fare evasion report.
in the back, last page.
And I guess my concern is not with the subway statistics, though I have some issues with that, but we have a totally different format for bus fare evasion. There's no tab summonses, there are no arrests in buses, and this gets to an equity issue that I've been harping on for 4 years, which is the fact that when last I looked, of the 130,000 or something arrests made when I first started, 95% were Black and Latino, and of the arrests, it was even higher. But it's clear, and I think there's been a newspaper story, that in terms of actual losses to our system, buses are much more so, and particularly in certain parts of the city. And I was jumping on Staten Island people, and then I talked to some. There's obviously a problem in Staten Island, particularly because we have a light rail system that virtually no one is charged for. And when it comes to buses, what are you talking about? So the question is, from an equitable standpoint, are we doing enforcement equally across the city? It doesn't mean I don't understand that in poor neighborhoods you're going to see a higher rate of fare evasion. I get that. But where there's become a chronic problem of fare evasion in other communities which have more resources, and we have no program that catches those individuals, it doesn't feel right. And that's why I'd like to come back and start to get the demographics again, get where we're having the arrests and TAD summonses given by station, so we can get a fuller understanding of what's going on here. There are other ways to go about this. I think Andy Byford, when he was here, had suggested the British system of having a uniform personnel in front of every gate, particularly where there's a high rate of fare evasion, is a much more effective way rather than giving out summonses all over the place that people often never can pay. Moreover, the issue has to become, is there another way to have a tab summons that doesn't result in someone being charged $100, which becomes ridiculous for a low-income person? And one of those ways is used in traffic kind of things, where you're forced to come down and watch a video on what can happen to you if you fare evade. Having laid in front of a steamroller as a youth and going before the bar ethics committee and being held up for an hour, why did you get a JD card? Things that you don't even think about as a young person. I was thinking at the time, mainly trying to impress a girlfriend, but I was thinking, but I had no idea of the long-term impact it could have of having this kind of craziness on your record. So I'd like us to rethink this whole thing. I agree with Andrew. The criminal element coming in probably didn't pay coming in. The difficulty is the sweep. When you get to 130,000 people, you're going to catch all sorts of people, but it's 130,000 people are not actively engaged in violent crime, or else we'd be in quite an unusual city. So I just want us to think about the perception and the dangers of bringing young people, particularly, into any kind of engagement with armed police. I'm terrified of. But also, can we find different systems of limiting the number of fare evaders, giving people other options, and making sure the system is finding fare evaders not only at Fulton and Nostrand, where I grew up, but on a bus. So I'll stop there because I'm becoming a dog with a bone with
No,
this thing.
no, you're passionate.
But
Just
it's
one
my concern.
correction.
Yes.
Obviously, the Staten Island Railway is not light rail, it's heavy rail.
Yes,
Oh,
no,
sorry.
right, no. We knew what he meant, yes. So David, I think we have to work together to get you the stats that you need, right? So is it working with David, demographics, or how do we do that?
We'll take that offline. We'll come back
Okay.
to this committee
Okay.
in regards to that.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, can I entertain a motion to adjourn? He gave me one before, right, okay. Second, Andrew, thank you. See you guys in a bit. Thank you, everyone.